All right, welcome to another edition of Chasing Winners College Football Edition. Kyle Massaloni here with JP Lyon. You seem to be in a bit better mood tonight. Did you actually win softball this week?
I'd say I'm actually in kind of the same mood as, or just a regular mood right now, because we did win softball. We won 18-9. Went through six pretty nice innings there. Um, and then I watched the Tua brain injury, so that kind of brought my mood back down.
Yeah, so as usual, we're doing this at halftime of Thursday Night Football. Obviously, we all just witnessed. Don't even really want to talk about it right now. There'll be a lot of talk about it throughout the week. So let's just try to keep the vibes somewhat positive here and talking about college football. May not be so positive for me as a Canes fan this week, but give me the numbers. How'd we do?
Well, I mean, it is going to be pretty positive for you because you, last week on all the games, gave a record. Mr. Jeff Fisher is back. 8-8, baby.
Oh, baby.
I didn't even
So,
tell Kyle that he went exactly 8-8 until now, but yeah, 8-8 for Kyle last week, 3-3 on the podcast picks. I went 9-7. So the West Virginia game that was going on during our podcast recording last week was really the decider because we both won three different games on Saturday. Both went 3-3 on podcast picks. I won my best bet with uh, Notre Dame. Notre Dame won for me. And then Ryan won with Oregon State. And Kyle lost with USC.
yeah, so the me picking USC till it fails me is officially over.
Yeah, it
But
lasted 2 weeks.
yeah, it lasted 2 weeks. It was a really good 2 weeks. But yeah, and about that one game that decided our record, it was funny. I messaged JP before the game about how much of a myth Virginia Tech in primetime is. I'm not sure if we talked about it last week. I forget on
I
the
don't think so.
podcast, but Virginia Tech, everybody hypes up this primetime environment. It's great. Enter Sandman plays. Everybody goes crazy pregame. But they have a losing record in these primetime games. I forget exactly what it was off the top of my head. Me and my roommate in college did this whole thing before Miami played Virginia Tech in one of these games, and Miami won that game. And they're I think it's really bad. I think it's like I have to go back and look at it. I think it's like 3-12 or something at this point. Like
Hmm.
3-12 in the last like 10 years or something. Not good.
No, that's not good, and I can't believe you did all of that in college, and then when it comes down to it, you bet on them to win a primetime game like that. It's irresponsible.
Well, yeah, I also made up the 3-12 number to be honest, but it was somewhere along those lines. Um, so so let's get into this week. Crazy slate. A lot of top 25 matchups this week. A lot of things to look forward to. We're going to kick it off noon SEC action. Number 7 Kentucky away to number 14 the Lane Train Ole Miss. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, it's two teams that if we don't think Florida is very good, then neither one of them has played anybody really. Kentucky's ranked in the top 10 solely because they beat Florida, and then they just up a spot after they lost or they beat NIU by a touchdown. So I don't think they're I don't think they're worthy of being top 10. But it goes back to me saying every week that I don't think any teams are good in college football this year, um, except Georgia. Um,
Your sound's a little choppy. I
is
feel
it?
like it might be me.
I found it. Um, so yeah, I don't feel like either of these teams is particularly good. Um, I wasn't overly. Oh, Ole Miss just was it last week they blew out Georgia Tech or the week before?
was the week before.
Did they play last week?
They did play last week. They beat Tulsa by 8. So also not very impressive.
Yeah. So 2 not very impressive wins last week. Somebody's going to win this game by a lot, and that scares me. So I'm going to take Kentucky +7.
Yeah, I'm on the opposite side here. I'm riding the Lane train. Ole Miss +7. Like you mentioned, is Florida good? I don't think so. I know they've both played. No, well, Kentucky played Florida, so they did play somebody. But I mean, I just think the offense wins out here. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The home environment should help. Jackson Dart's been pretty solid this year. Yeah, I'm on the Ole Miss side here.
Will Levis looked pretty good last week. 4 touchdowns in that tight game.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, but I do think their defense is their strong point, their strong suit. Kentucky definitely. It always has been. It keeps them in games, and I mean they can easily keep this within 7. I don't think it's going to be a blowout like you do. I think it's going to be within like 10 to 14 points.
So with both of our reasoning, we should be taking the opposite side.
Yes, pretty much.
All right, just making sure.
All right, so let's get going on the next game we got here. We got Alabama, 3:30 CBS. Alabama traveling to Arkansas. Of course, Alabama's coming off of wiping out Vandy, and Arkansas is coming off of that devastating loss to Texas A&M. Can the Razorbacks bounce back and keep this close?
I think they have to here. I do think Pittman's a good coach, and I think that was a game they obviously should have won. Bama got their, bounce back game their bounce back games from not playing as well against Texas. So to me, Arkansas is gonna keep this one within 17 and a half. I don't feel like they have much of a chance of winning, but if they don't get fired up for this game, then they're not going to get fired up for anything. I think I saw they lost 14 straight this series. Arkansas has to win this game. I mean, they have to keep it close to have any sort of momentum.
There were a few really close games in that long stretch of losing in this series, though, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a huge spot for them at home, as you mentioned. They have to keep it close. I think they do keep it close. Alabama struggled on the road big time in their first road game against Texas. We'll see if that continues to be a pattern. I'm gonna take the big spread here plus. I'm gonna take the big underdog spread here, plus 17 and a half. Arkansas at home. Woo pig. They're gonna keep it close. It's gonna be a game. Up next is your game. So I'm gonna do what we usually do for this. I'm gonna give my pick quickly and throw it over to you for the big time explanation. So Baylor at home against Oklahoma State. This could be a decider in the Big 12. It could at least decide possibly who's finishing first or second if Oklahoma shows up, but huge implications in the Big 12. Baylor's 2-point favorites. I'm on Baylor -2. JP, do you believe in your team this week?
Well, I'll tell you, it's going to decide who's the second place team in the Big 12, because obviously Kansas is finishing.
Yeah, I'm forgetting about Kansas here.
Yeah. So I do think being at home here is a big factor. We traditionally don't play very well on the road under Aranda, and also playing in Oklahoma State is a nightmare. Line scares me. Line scares me a lot. I think it's up to 2.5 now. I might have to bet it before it gets to 3 because I can't take Baylor -3 in this game. I think Spencer Sanders has thrown 7 interceptions in 3 games against Baylor. I think I saw that stat. He throws a lot of interceptions. And so we should have the defense to make him throw at least one more this week. I don't know. I don't have a ton of analysis on this. I really enjoyed the passing game last week. I thought Grimes put different kind of offense together and different like that flea flicker and stuff. That's stuff we did not have against BYU, and we didn't have that against whoever we played in week 3. I think it was Texas State. We didn't have it against Texas State either. So I think we're trending upward right now, and that's probably why the line is where it is. If we have any semblance of the passing game that we had last week, Oklahoma State does not have the defense to contend with that this year. So let's be like Central Michigan and put up 40 points on them. And I don't think they're going to score 58 against our defense. So I'm on Baylor -2 for the podcast. If it gets to 3, that'll scare me, but we'll see.
Awesome. So you're actually believing in your team this week because was it last week?
Yes.
It was last week where you picked against Baylor on the podcast, and
look, I still hedge against my emotions all the time. And I shouldn't, but I do, and I will continue to do that. Just not this week.
Got it. Happy you're on your own side this week. Hopefully it pays off for both of us. Up next, big matchup in the ACC. Somehow Florida State is still undefeated. 4-0, huge spot for them in the Atlantic. The Atlantic just seems to be back to being a powerhouse division all of a sudden. Against Wake Forest, number 22, coming off that another heartbreaking loss with teams we're talking about last week. Heartbreaking loss to Clemson. Mm-hmm. They really blew that one in the end there. JP, do you think they bounce back, or do you think Florida State somehow keeps this run going? Florida State are 7-point favorites, by the way.
Yeah, well, I really regretted cashing out my Wake Forest +8 live on the podcast. I would have made up yet another game against Kyle. But I don't know. I think Wake Forest really got up for that game last week, and this is a letdown spot for them for sure. They put everything they had into beating Clemson last week. It didn't work out. That's got to be deflating for that program. Coming into Florida State this week, I'm seeing a double-digit loss here. I have to take Florida State -7, and I know that probably doesn't make you very happy as an anti-Florida State guy.
It doesn't make me very happy at all, but I have to tell you that I completely agree with you. I'm on Florida State -7 here. It just pains me that Florida State are going to be 5-0 going into a big-time game against NC State, it pains me to think that. It might not be the case, obviously. We'll see what happens on Saturday, but
of these 6 games, this is actually the one where I feel maybe this one and the next one, I think, are the 2 that I feel the best about.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about this one. I shouldn't, but I do. Florida State -7. They've been impressive all year. They haven't really played anybody. They played Louisville, but the away game against LSU actually that I completely forgot about there. That's something. But
LSU's not any good either. They missed that kick. That wasn't Florida State.
Yeah, I know. They actually probably should have lost that game, but we'll give it to them. I'm on Florida State -7. Next game we're talking about is another one of these. We have one of these every week, it seems like. A what the hell is this line moment. So Texas A&M coming off the win against Arkansas last week, lucky win, but a win.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling to Mississippi State, and the Mississippi State are a 4-point favorite. What the hell is happening? How do these lines keep happening? And how are they always right?
Every week it happens. Yeah, I got nothing here. I got nothing. There's no reason that I should take Mississippi State. I don't think they're very good. A&M's clearly not very good. But they escaped with a win last week, and they're ranked something.
17.
Ranked 17th. Mississippi State is
Unranked.
Mississippi State is 3-1. Lost to LSU, right? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only way to pick this game is just to say, take the stupid spread. Mississippi State -4. It's the same reason you take Bengals -3.5 tonight. So I'm on Mississippi State -4. This line also, sorry, this line, Kyle initially said, let's do Mississippi State, Texas A&M in the podcast, unless you want to put like Iowa State, Kansas in there. And then he said, oh, wait, Mississippi State is a 2-point favorite. Never mind, we have to do Texas A&M, Mississippi State. That was Sunday, Monday, Sunday probably.
That was Sunday, yeah.
And now they're a 4-point favorite. So the line didn't make sense at 2, and now it's 4. So either the public's getting a lot smarter than we think, or it's another of these spreads.
So this one, I know I said that I'm going to take the stupid spreads for the rest of the season. I have to go against myself here. I have to go against that. This is just mind-boggling. At 2, I probably would have taken Mississippi State. That's like just enough of, okay, this doesn't make sense. I'll go to that side. But now it's gotten bet up to 4? What? In what world? Why?
What if I can look up the public numbers?
I'll probably be proven wrong on Saturday. I mean, Mississippi State's QB here, Will Rogers, is thrown for 16 touchdowns this season. That's ridiculous. But they've also played nobody besides LSU and only scored 16 points in that LSU game. What makes you think they'll be able to put up more points on that Texas A&M defense? That's the one thing I don't get it. I have to Texas A&M +4. Let's.
What time is that game at? Is that another 4:31 or is that?
That's a 4 o'clock. So you could watch 4 o'clock Eastern. So you could watch Oklahoma State Baylor, and then watch the ending of the Texas A&M Mississippi State game, where I am going to probably be very angry when my line that makes too much sense loses.
I think this is saying that Mississippi State has 66% of the bets.
Interesting. So people are actually hammering Mississippi State.
That does not make me happy. Imagine if the public just figured out Vegas this year in week 5, and then Vegas loses all their money.
Well then Vegas will just figure it out and start favoriting the other side.
They haven't had to work hard in a while.
No, they haven't. They might have to. They might have to this season if the public catches on to these nonsense lines. these nonsense lines that hit. So they're not really nonsense, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And now we get to pretty much the ACC's premier game this season, I think.
Yep.
We've been hinting at it, or I've been more so even alluding to it all year. I've been saying NC State is the best team in the ACC. I've been saying Clemson is overrated. Now it's time, 7:30 ABC, Memorial Stadium at Clemson, to put my money where my mouth is. NC State away to Clemson. Clemson are 6.5-point favorites. You know where I'm going on this game, but you go first here.
Well, if I know where you're going, go ahead.
I mean, I've been saying it all year. I think NC State's a better football team than Clemson. I do. It may be a hot take. DJ's finally starting to turn it up for Clemson. I know. But Wake Forest is no NC State. NC State is going to come into Memorial Stadium, guns out of hell. This is their Super Bowl. This is the biggest. Dare I say the biggest game in program history for NC State? It's got to be up there.
It's a bold take.
If they win this game, the world's ahead of them. They'll move up to the top 5. They have Florida State next week. If they win that, then they'll be in a NC State will be in a playoff position.
Imagine if they just lose at home to Florida State next week.
Oh my God.
I would never watch college football.
They put me through Middle Tennessee State last week.
Mm-hmm.
Then if NC State wins this and loses to Florida State next week, and Florida State skyrockets up to a playoff spot, I won't know what I will do until we play spoiler on November 5th. But
and then you lose by 50, and then what do you do?
One thing about Miami Florida State games, besides for the COVID one in 2020, is they're always close, no matter how good or bad each side is. So that's not going to happen. The COVID one in 2020, we just wrecked them. But yeah, I'm on NC State minus 6.5 here.
Plus 6.
Plus 6.5. Yeah, I'm tempted.
I'll take minus 6.5. I can put that in.
No, I want to take the points. I might be tempted to put some money on the money line when we get down to actual betting. We'll see about that. And it may be a hurricane. I heard the weather forecast has changed a little bit. I heard it may be a little drier that night, but there was a real threat of
It's not going to be a hurricane when it hits North Carolina.
Tropical storm though.
Or South Carolina.
Or tropical depression. One of them. That's still a huge storm.
I know. I was in Orlando this week.
Ah, yes, that happened.
We almost did this podcast where I was from Orlando in the middle of a hurricane. That would have been very exciting.
Battle against the power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they haven't lost power at the place I was at. They're just getting free drinks and having a great time, and I'm back in Dallas, sad.
Damn.
For me on this game, great game for NC State. They have to get up for it. To me, Clemson had the scare last week. They're at home this week. They understand that this is maybe they're looking past Wake Forest a little bit. I can't imagine that NC State's going to put up 45 points on Clemson this week. I still have to take Clemson because it feels like a game to me where, yeah, there's this. It feels like a classic Big 12 game where there's this upstart team and they're going to challenge the superpower now. And Oklahoma just says, no, you are not. This is still my conference. Clemson is going to say, you are not Clemson. This is still our conference. And Clemson is going to win this game by 7 or more points.
But you say like the upstart knocking on the door. I feel like that's been NC State for like 5, 6 years now.
And
They beat Clemson last year. I know that will motivate Clemson even more possibly, but I I think they're still the better football team here. We'll see what happens for the rest of the season with them, but
yeah, to me, it's the best NC State team that we've seen in a long time, right?
yeah.
This is the game Clemson's going to win. They don't care if they lose to the bottom top 25 NC State team from last year. And against this NC State team is a big one.
We will see Saturday night, won't we?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's get into best bets this week before we go. So does Ryan have one for this week?
He does. He's looking at a Big Ten game. It's Illinois at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is 7-point favorites in Camp Randall, and he is on the Badgers. Illinois 3-1 on the season. Wisconsin 2-2. He's taken the Badgers at home, cover the spread. I don't have a lot of thoughts on that game. I will not.
Eh,
Yeah, and then for me, I've got Oklahoma on the road against TCU. Oklahoma 6.5-point favorites. I like the spot for a bounce back this week, even though traditionally they don't like to play very well against the purple teams. Kansas State's been the thorn in their side forever. I think they have to get a bounce back here. Oklahoma usually doesn't lose two of those types of games in a row. They'll have a close one or a loss, and then they'll follow it up with a 30-point win. So I like the spot for Oklahoma on the road here.
and my best bet, we talked about them a bit last week, is a huge bounce back spot for Duke.
Mm-hmm.
Duke minus 2.5 at home against UVA. I mean, we all watched a lot more Duke probably than we should have last week. We also or at least I watched a lot more of UVA than anybody needed to watch last week against Syracuse. I know the score said something about that UVA game, but if you look at the box score, like 3 for 22 on third downs, like Syracuse tried their absolute best to give that game away. Three for 12 on third down. Sorry, they didn't have 22 third downs. That would be ridiculous. But Syracuse tried to give that game away and failed. Like it was crazy. Virginia sucks. I think Duke is okay. Duke minus 2.5 at home.
Does it seem like a weird line?
It doesn't seem like a weird line, only because people still are not believers in the Duke and Kansas takeover of college football.
Yeah, we're just waiting to see when it actually happens. Kansas meeting in the college football playoff, and that's maybe 5 years away.
Kansas has another big one this week. We'll
They
see.
do. That's 3-point dogs at home, I think. Yeah, that should be a good game. I might actually watch that game.
I think it's all on at like the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot of afternoon games all on it. I think there was 3 that we talked about.
Yeah, 3 afternoon games that we talked about here. Only one primetime game that we talked about. So.
Mm-hmm. And 1 noon game. So.
Oh.
Should be a good week though.
Should be an awesome week. I hope to get that game back on you that I gave you with Virginia Tech.
Or you could just keep giving the games. Seems
I am good with that. Time to watch Teddy Bridgewater now that Tua is out of the game and see what's going on with BYU as well, because that was very, very close. So so have a good night. Good luck this week. Should be a good week of college football. Enjoy. And a like and subscribe and do all that stuff.
Subscribe button. So click the one down here. Go Teddy Club, 2 gloves, Birch to it.
That's how you could tell I'm not an experienced host. I always miss the like and subscribe, but
Mhm.
we got it in there. Enjoy the football this weekend.
Deal.